Listen, I know we're not supposed to talk about altcoins in a bear market. And, I'm very cognizant of the fact that this very much is a bear market if you've been trading Bitcoin. But actually, if you look under the hood, there are a couple of altcoins that have really, really, really outperformed Bitcoin. And in fact, actually had really good performance even in this market. I want to show you some examples of them. You can kind of see it here, but like Hyperliquid is back at $59. You've got Zcash, which is doing amazing things. And what I thought I'd do today is we'd spend a little bit of time actually talking about the tokens that are outperforming Bitcoin. And there's actually, when you look at them, there's actually a pattern. And what that pattern basically shows is that there are certain types of altcoins that are really outperforming Bitcoin on multiple timeframes. And so I know that crypto is not in a bull market. And I know that, most crypto holders are taking a lot of strain. But if you're holding the right tokens, and thank God we've been holding a lot of those right tokens, you've actually made a lot of money even in this bear market. And if the trend continues, then maybe you'll end up making even more money. So maybe, and I agree with you, maybe most of crypto is dead. Maybe it's very, very hard to be a Bitcoin trader. But hell, if you're holding Zcash, or if you're holding Hyperliquid, or if you're holding VVV, which is Venice token, then, just have a look at the performance here of VVV USD, which is Venice, which is the AI project, which we'll talk about today. That's not underperforming, and in fact, that's an amazing bull market. Just look at the performance since January 2026. Since the 3rd of January 2026, you would have made yourself a 10x return right here in crypto, right? So yes, I know it's quiet, and yes, I know it's very, very, very hard to be in this market, but actually, if you're with the right team and if you're following the right alpha, actually, it's not the worst place to be. And the reason why I'm doing the show, or the reason why I got the idea to do the show, is I kind of looked at my portfolio, and I made a point this year of making my portfolio really, really very much what I say is in Frontrunners, which is our paid Discord group. And I kind of said, let's just look at what happens if to all up the performance. And I looked at my portfolio and I said, yeah, obviously my portfolio is down. I think everybody's portfolio is down because, I'm holding a large Solana position and I'm holding a couple of other positions. But net, my portfolio is actually doing okay in this bear market. And then I analyzed, why is my portfolio doing okay? And that's because I'm holding Hyperliquid, I'm holding Zcash, I'm holding Venice, I'm holding a whole lot of others. So let's look at those tokens. Let's look at the patterns. Let's see if we can find tokens that are actually going to outperform and actually find some alpha here in crypto. That sounds good to you. Stay on and enjoy the show, guys. Let's get the show on the road. I don't know what time it was for you guys last night when the Nvidia results came out, but I know for us it was like 10:30 at night, and I was lying in bed and I was going, dear God, please make sure Nvidia gives us a good performance and they beat expectations. And that's exactly what Nvidia actually did yesterday. So they again outperformed, and you can see that today the stock is actually, it's opened pretty flat, and I'll show you in a second why the stock's opened pretty flat. But they outperformed again. So if you look at their performance, and this is, I'm getting it off the Crypto Banter page, revenue, 81.6 billion, beat expectations. Adjusted earnings per share, 1.87, beating expectations. Their Q2 revenue guide above consensus. So they really beat all metrics yesterday again, and they've set a habit of doing that. I saw this, which is, only in crypto do you see stuff like this, where someone publishes the Nvidia report card, and he says revenue up 85%. Cost up 18%, gross profit up 129%, and so they really beat on every metric. Now, you may be asking, well, if they beat on every metric, and he graded them an A++. And again, if you look at it again, they outperformed again. So they've got another tick or another notch under their belt for outperforming. And another thing which is absolutely crazy is just look at the revenue growth of this company. Just look at this. You're talking about 2017. 2017 was 10 years ago. They were doing 1.3 billion. They're doing 81.6 billion in quarterly revenue. You understand how this world has changed. I do want to talk about something else when it relates to how this world has changed, but we'll talk about it at the end of the show. It's going to be an absolute banger. One thing that I must say is that the degens were out in full force last night. So I want to show you this. This is on Hyperliquid, and Hyperliquid is one of the tokens we're actually going to talk about today. But you can see that what you can see is last night when the news came out, when the traditional markets were actually closed, and the news came out with the Hyperliquid, with the Nvidia results, the degens were actually trading this on Hyperliquid. And so if you want a clue as to why Hyperliquid has been outperforming the entire market, well, it is because this token really has, or this protocol really does have an amazing use case. People are using this to trade tokens, stocks, real world assets oil, the NASDAQ. Look, I mean, you can even trade SpaceX, which is the pre-IPO. You can trade the pre-IPO SpaceX share at a $2.1 trillion valuation. You can do this all on Hyperliquid. So this is part of what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm excited to speak to you about it today. There's a lot of stuff that I actually want to show you today. And at the end of the show, I'm going to show you something like absolutely amazing, which I'm so excited about. And you guys can actually participate with us at the end of the show. So if you're new to the channel, subscribe to the channel. If you've been here for a while, smash a like button. We're going to have some fun today. We're going to talk about altcoins. We haven't spoken about altcoins in such a long time. But the truth is, I'm tired of talking about the war. I'm tired of talking about the oil prices. And I'm tired of talking about macro. I just want to get back to actual crypto and actual alpha. I just want to get back to where we were. And when we used to have so much fun talking about crypto and alpha. And there is alpha actually to be found. There is a lot of alpha that we can actually find. Like, I mean, as I showed you guys before, there's a whole lot of tokens that have actually outperformed Bitcoin. And if we can find those, then at least we can maximize, or we can have some fun even during the bear market. In the meantime, Nvidia outperformed, which kind of saved us. And we were doing pretty well. Like, so after Nvidia outperformed, we were doing pretty well. Actually, I don't know if you guys were watching. When we go into a 4-hour chart, we got to like 77,000 or 70. Actually, we actually touched 78,000, believe it or not. And then we got another announcement. And this time the announcement wasn't such a good announcement, which is why we pulled back. The announcement that we got was that, remember yesterday they said that the US and Iran were on the verge of like some major peace deal. And everyone thought like, okay, there's a peace deal that's going to happen. The NASDAQ went for a run. The oil prices went down, etc., etc. And then today, and this came out our time about an hour ago, the Iranian supreme leader has issued a directive. Now, I don't know how he's issuing a directive. Apparently this guy's like very sick, or he's been hit by, he got hit or he got attacked by the US. Anyway, Khamenei issued a directive that the country's highly enriched uranium should not be sent abroad. Okay, that's the whole discussion here. The whole peace deal revolves around one thing. And that one thing is that the Iranians get rid of enriched uranium. That's basically, Iranians get rid of enriched uranium. That's what the whole thing is about. And so to say that he now wants the country's highly enriched uranium not to be sent abroad, well, where do you want to keep it, bro? The whole idea is that you can't have nuclear weapons. Where do you want to keep this thing? So that announcement sent the oil prices up again. You can see that's the oil chart. That's the announcement. I keep calling the oil chart the real war line, because if oil goes up, you kind of know that there's no ceasefire. And if oil goes down, then you know there is one. That also sent the S&P 500. The S&P 500 actually, at the beginning of the day, was a little bit high. Like, it was at like 7,562. Not majorly up, but now you can see it's slightly down. So that's the S&P 500. And then, of course, that impacted Bitcoin. Bitcoin was, as I said to you, at 78,000. And then we pulled back, and now we're at 77,000. So my thesis around Bitcoin remains: we're going to stay in this channel until either we're going to mess around in this channel until either we break out up or we're going to break up down. And there's not much to talk about Bitcoin other than that, right? Other than that, that's pretty much what's going on. Let's talk about the altcoins. Let's talk about the altcoins. We're going back to have some fun. And again, I say, I know that altcoins in general haven't been the place to be, and I'm under no illusion that it's been very tough if you traded altcoins. Even what we thought were the best altcoins actually haven't performed very well. Altcoins like Solana, altcoins like Ethereum, they haven't done very well. But actually, if you go to the bubbles and you go to the settings over here and you change the currency that you look at. So you don't actually look at the tokens relative to the US dollar, because when you look at them relative to the US dollar, you see a lot of them are basically up quite a bit today. But if we look at it relative to Bitcoin, we can actually say change the currency. We can change it to Bitcoin. And then we can kind of see the ones that actually outperform Bitcoin. And that kind of gives you a different picture. So if you go into the 1 year view, what you can see is that there actually are tokens that have really, really, really outperformed Bitcoin by a lot. So like Hyperliquid's outperformed Bitcoin by a lot. Zcash has outperformed Bitcoin by a lot. I think that's 𝗦𝗛𝗢𝗪. But that's because it came on at a certain point. 𝗕𝗵𝘁𝗵, which is a Venice token, which we're going to talk about, also outperformed Bitcoin by quite a bit. In the top 200, there's a whole lot of others. And that got me thinking about, like, maybe there is money to be made if you're getting good alpha and if you know exactly what you're buying. And I wanted to have a look at the tokens that actually outperform Bitcoin and what they were doing right and what the patterns are about these tokens. And maybe if for example, if you see that the tokens outperform Bitcoin in the last year, in the last 6 months, in the last 3 months, in the last 5 months, maybe that's the token that when the bull market comes back is going to continue to outperform Bitcoin, and maybe to outperform Bitcoin by a lot. And so that's what I started digging into, right? I started looking at all the data of tokens that we're holding relative to Bitcoin. Now, the majority of these tokens, I can say that we were holding. There's some that we're not holding, but like Zcash, one of our biggest holdings, Venice, one of our biggest holdings, Canton, one of our biggest holdings. In the last 12 months, they've all outperformed Bitcoin. Hyperliquid, one of my personal biggest holdings, also outperformed Bitcoin, right? And so what I did was I kind of took the charts and I said, okay, let's look at the tokens that are outperforming Bitcoin. Zcash, one of them that's outperforming Bitcoin. Believe it or not, Tron is outperforming Bitcoin. And if you look at Tron's outperformed Bitcoin for like a long time. I'll actually show you that in a second. Hyperliquid. I mean, I don't need to say very much more about this, right? Like, it very, very, very much is outperforming Bitcoin. Just look at this. This is a weekly chart. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to say this. Let's actually put them on the Bitcoin chart. So that's the Zcash chart relative to Bitcoin. And if you look at what Zcash has done relative to Bitcoin in 2026 alone. So let's just go to the beginning of 2026, which is here. And just look at it, that Zcash has actually outperformed Bitcoin by 100% this year, right? And if you look at like Hyperliquid, which is here, by the way, if you want to do this, it's just basically you go HYP USD divided by Bitcoin USD, and then you go to the time frame that you're looking at. So if you look at Hyperliquid since the beginning of 2026, I mean, I'm going to go to there, somewhere here, and go over here. Hyperliquid's done a 200% above Bitcoin this year. So that tells you that there are certain altcoins that are really, really, really outperforming Bitcoin this year. And I mean, here's another one, Near Protocol. And I think the reason why Near Protocol is outperforming Bitcoin is because Near Protocol has become like a beta play to Zcash. Why? Because Near has this product called Near Intense, and what Near Intense is it allows you to swap from one token to another on chain, and that's where people are swapping their Zcash tokens on chain, basically, right? Because they don't want to go onto an exchange and to basically break the privacy. So in that case, every time Zcash moves, Near moves. Near is a proxy to that. Now, what we did was we actually looked at we actually made a spreadsheet to see which tokens outperform Bitcoin and what time periods they actually outperform Bitcoin to. Now, remember, what we're looking for is we're looking for tokens that outperform Bitcoin on multiple time frames. So, for example, if you look at Zcash has outperformed Bitcoin on the 1 month, on the 2 month, on the 2 month, on the 90 day, on 6 months, and on 12 months. This is telling you something. This is telling you that maybe Zcash right now is on a trend to outperform Bitcoin. For the last year, it's definitely outperformed Bitcoin. For the last month, it's definitely outperformed Bitcoin. So Zcash is one of those that's really outperforming Bitcoin. Same thing with Hyperliquid. So you look at Hyperliquid, also very much outperforming Bitcoin at the moment. In the last month, it's outperformed Bitcoin by 41%. In the last 12 months, it's outperformed Bitcoin by 118%. Tron, another one of those. I mean, I'm not a holder of Tron because, I mean, I know what the thesis is. The thesis is that the supply is tightly controlled by Justin Sun and his friends, and that you're just trusting that they'll never ever dump on you. And that's not a thesis for me. It used to be a stablecoin chain. It's not a stablecoin chain anymore because all those stablecoin transactions can actually happen on BNB, on Solana, on Sui, and everywhere else for the same fee. So not really a thing. Venice, we'll talk about in a second because I think that is one of them. One of them that is starting to outperform Bitcoin is one that really underperformed in the past, and that's Ton. So if you look at Ton is the Ton blockchain, Ton. And if you remember, 𝗙𝗫𝗪, who's the founder of Ton, basically said, look, they're taking over the foundation, and basically they're bringing it much more in-house, right? So a bet on Ton now is a bet on the founder of Telegram actually making this blockchain work. When you look at Ton, since up until the announcement, it really, really, really underperformed Bitcoin. But when that announcement actually happened on the 3rd of May, it actually started to outperform Bitcoin, right? And so what you're starting to see is that there are blockchains that have outperformed, or there are tokens that have outperformed Bitcoin on multiple time frames. And maybe you need to start paying attention to them because maybe these are the winners or the tokens for the next cycle, right? So, and you can, when you look at it like this, you can kind of see it pretty early, right? So, like, let's take, for example, I don't know, ETH. What you can see is that on no time frame other than a 12-month time frame has ETH outperformed Bitcoin, right? ETH has underperformed Bitcoin for a long time, which means that maybe ETH is not the darling of the next cycle. But on the other hand, when you look at Hyperliquid, it is outperforming. Someone says, what about Sui? So Sui wasn't outperforming Bitcoin, didn't outperform on a 12-month, didn't outperform on a thing. But actually, if you look at the last 3 months, or the last 90 days, the last 60 days, and the last 30 days, Sui is outperforming Bitcoin, right? So again, that's one that you probably should look at. This is maybe giving you an idea of which tokens are going to run. So I would imagine that Airdrop is starting to outperform Bitcoin. Why would Airdrop be outperforming Bitcoin? Because everyone's expecting the launch of the base blockchain. When is the base blockchain going to launch? Well, let's get the Clarity Act in place so that Coinbase, who is currently, I'm not going to say the owner because you can't own a blockchain, but you know that they are the single not router, but they're the single sequencer for the base chain. So they basically control the base chain. And we know, and because they've said that they're going to launch a base token at some point. And right now, the only proxy for that base token is actually Airdrop, right? So you can see that there are a lot of tokens that have outperformed Bitcoin. Now, as I said, luckily for us, a lot of those tokens have actually been called in front runners. Like for like a long time, we've been calling, like for example, here's one, Zcash bought around 250, now nearly 200. I was telling the community to buy. That was in, when was it? That was 10th of the 9th, 2025, telling people to buy Zcash. 2nd of Feb 2026 at $300, telling the community to buy Zcash again. Andre talking about buying VVV, and this was on the 2nd of March 2026. Now, let's just go back and see where VVV was on the 2nd of March 2026. I remember that research call that we had that morning where we all decided that we want to do it. So 2nd of March 2026, VVV was at $3. Today it's at $17. So there are a lot of these. I mean, there are a lot. Here's what I'm currently holding, and you can see like Bitcoin, ETH outperforming, Sol outperforming, but Zcash overperforming, Sui starting to overperform, Hype and overperforming, Arweave hasn't performed, VVV performed well, 𝗤 performed well, 𝗕 performed well, Canton performed well. So most of the tokens that we're actually holding in the portfolio, someone's saying Canton isn't doing too bad. Yes, Canton hasn't moved, but not moving in a market where everything is going down is a win, I would say, right? So there are tokens that are actually outperforming Bitcoin. Now, I want to spend some time talking about these tokens. As we said, Zcash is one of them. The reason why Zcash is pumping is because the cypherpunk movement, the guys that got Bitcoin onto the map, have now got a new challenge. It's the Winklevoss brothers. It's Barry Silbert. It's all the guys that were here, the Naval Ravikants, all the guys that basically put Bitcoin on the map. They now have a new mission, and their new mission is private cash. And they've chosen their proxy on private cash to be Zcash. So therefore, Zcash is moving. A lot of money is behind it. A lot of brain power is behind it. It's on CNBC. It's et cetera, et cetera. Venice token, for those of you who don't know, this one's performed unbelievably well. What is it? Effectively, the thesis here is private use of AI models, right? So I think one of the things that you know is that, you know, if you're using a Gemini or if you're using a ChatGPT, they know everything about you. There's nothing private anymore. They know who you are. They're starting to know your history. You start asking it personal questions, etc., etc. What Venice does is it actually allows you to use open source AI models and almost to remain anonymous, right? So that is the thesis behind it. And if you think about that, that's an unbelievable use case to have a decentralized access to have open source, private, uncensored version of ChatGPT, which doesn't actually store your data and do it. Now, how they do it, it's through a duplicate or double token method. I don't want to get too much into it, but I do want you to just listen to this thesis from
VVV. Jan. Right now, it's spiking up at the time of recording. We're currently coming in at $17.50. That puts it at a $800 million market cap, a $1.4 billion fully diluted. Fairly valued, overvalued, undervalued? What do you think?
Personally, very bullish. Still at these levels, I think you can almost think about like, so, you know, people always kind of, you kind of need to figure out the gap between market cap and FDV isn't always made equal, right? Like what is making up that portion? And I think what's important with them is they don't have any investors. The team allo got 10% and it's 75% unlocked, right? So there's another 2.5% overhang there. And then the rest is kind of these community buckets for partnerships and kind of other things that are basically, whenever you think about, is this good unlock or bad unlock? That's good unlock, right? That's only going to get used to grow the business. So I think this is one of those scenarios where market cap is actually probably a better representation of the value. And so then you're looking at pretty low multiples on that front.
So he's still really bullish about it.
I think based on the way it's been growing right now,
really bullish. He's still really bullish about it. He's still really bullish on the thesis. Another one which is outperforming Bitcoin, and I think this is the one that I want to spend a lot of time on, is I want to spend time on Hyperliquid, because I think that's the one that everyone's talking about right now. And I guess you've probably noticed that Hyperliquid is touching its all-time high. The last time that Hyperliquid was at these levels was the 18th of September 2025. Yesterday, actually, Hyperliquid flipped Solana by FDV. Can you believe it? Can you believe that Hyperliquid actually flipped Solana? Solana was like was cited to be the next big blockchain. It is one of my biggest positions. And right now, Solana is actually Hyperliquid actually for a few minutes. Or I think actually now they have flipped each other by FDV. We can actually go and check it out in a second. Just some cool facts here. So Bitcoin, the last time Hype was at $50. Bitcoin was at $125,000, which was the high. ETH was at $4,600. Sol was at $235. HIP3, HIP4, HIP3, HIP4 Per wasn't bidding Hype. Hype ETF didn't exist. Circle wasn't giving Hyperliquid 90% of their Circle yield. And people presumed the team unlocks was $10 million Hype. So there was all these things that never happened. Now Hype is back at $50, and all of these things actually exist, and Bitcoin is at $70. So when the market pulls up, then actually Hype will actually carry on running. So why is Hyperliquid doing so well? Well, Hyperliquid's found amazing product market fit. It's the de facto place to trade decentralized perps. I think anyone who's trading decentralized perps is trading them on Hyperliquid. Why? And they've got an ETF at the moment as well. The ETF is starting to actually bring in some big numbers. I think it actually did like $25 million. Yeah, $25 million yesterday. Now, obviously, that's not Bitcoin style numbers. But when you look at it relative to the float, it's 0.2% of the total tokens in circulation were bought by the ETF in one day. So yes, it doesn't feel like a small amount, but if you look at it relative to the tokens in circulation, that's a massive amount of Hyperliquid that were actually bought, right? And so there's Grayscale buying Hype. There's a lot of buyers. There's a lot of buyers actually buying Hype. And if you look at the percentage of fees that they've captured, just look at the percentage of fees on layer ones that Hyperliquid's actually captured. So quite a big use case. And I think that highlights the fact that these decentralized perps have a massive use case. A decentralized perps exchange today has a massive use case. You can see that because Hyperliquid started running, the other one that started running was Lighter, which is the other decentralized perps exchange, also started running yesterday. So that's what happened to Lighter. Why? Probably because Hyperliquid started running, and this whole narrative around these decentralized perpetuals exchanges started running. So why is it running? Because I think it's got amazing product market fit. What is the product market fit? Basically, you can trade anything at any time in a decentralized way on Hyperliquid. Now, when I say anything at any time in a decentralized way on Hyperliquid, people are using it to trade oil after hours. People are using it to trade open AI, real world assets before they actually come onto the market. So they've got this like a perps market for decentralized SpaceX shares. The SpaceX IPO hasn't happened. It is about to happen. I mean, I don't know if you guys have been watching, but there's actually something pretty cool that's actually going on, right? It says SpaceX has filed for the S1 statement ahead of its record-setting IPO. They intend to list under the Nasdaq with a SpaceX with a symbol SPCX. SPCX posted Q1 revenue of 4.69 billion. Now, here's what, in my mind, it gets super interesting, right? Elon Musk will be the CEO, the CTO, and the chairman of the board after the IPO. Now, bro, where does Elon get the time from? Where does Elon get time? He's CEO of Tesla. He's CEO of Neuralink. He's CTO of Neuralink. He's CEO of SpaceX. Where does this guy get the time? The Boring Company. Where does the guy get so much time? Anyway, he's going to be the CEO and the CTO. SpaceX still holds 15.8 billion in cash, but they also own 18,000 Bitcoin, by the way. And they're looking to raise $80 billion. Now, they own $18,000. I think their base cost on the $18,000 is $35,000 that they paid for those Bitcoin, and they're still holding them, which is, I think, a great advertisement for Bitcoin. It is the biggest IPO of all time, believe it or not. So this is the biggest IPO of all time. Nick from Coin Bureau basically says, SpaceX would release its IPO prospectus today, and the numbers are wild. Valuation is at 1.75 trillion. Yes, it is, but on Hyperliquid, you can actually buy it for 2.1 trillion. Let me actually look at it. So SpaceX, 2.1 trillion, $2 trillion now on Hyperliquid. Let's just go back to his tweet. Largest IPO ever, larger than Australia's GDP, larger than Bitcoin's market cap. Holy shit. Larger than Bitcoin's market cap, 1.2 trillion greater than the market economy of the US combined Eurospace industry. In addition, it's coming to the market at 100 times price to sales ratio. Apple trades at 11 and Nvidia at the post chart trades at 25 to 30. So you're taking a real future view here if you are getting into SpaceX. So the interesting thing is that, I mean, as I said to you before, the interesting thing is that you know that Elon Musk and Sam Altman have always been in this feud, right? They've just gone to court. Elon Musk actually lost in court. Why? Not because he lost on the merits of the case, but the court ruled in a technicality that he reacted too late. It's happened to me a few times actually in court, funny enough. The interesting thing here is that the week that SpaceX announces the IPO launch, OpenAI is also preparing to file for an IPO launch. And again, what you can see is that if you go to Hyperliquid, you can actually go and trade OpenAI before the launch, right? So there's the OpenAI launch, and you can trade on leverage, etc., etc. And so that is why Hyperliquid and all these guys are actually doing very well. Now, there's a reason why I wanted to talk to you about this, right? And why I want to talk to you about this today. So the big narrative now is around decentralized perpetuals trading, and it's also a narrative around tokenized real-world assets, right? So 𝗙𝗍𝗫 says tokenized assets have never been more popular. The distributed asset value of the real-world asset token is now up to 33.8 billion. This represents a 1,600% increase over the last 2 years. This excludes Canton, by the way, because if you exclude Canton, they've got nearly $1 trillion on chain or something like that. Okay, so the other person that I saw tweeting about this is Richard Tang, who's the CEO of Binance. Says tokenized real-world assets have grown by 5x since January. Over 20 billion is added to the tokenized real-world asset market in the last 12 years. Another major utility for crypto and blockchains, right? So we know that there's a lot happening on real-world assets, OpenAI, Nvidia, any real-world asset on chain, and specifically trading it on a decentralized perpetuals DEX. And this is what I want to talk to you about today. So how many of you missed the Hyperliquid airdrop? I know that for all intents and purposes, I would say I missed it. Yes, I did get a small airdrop because I did trade a little bit, but I could have retired if I just traded, put all my trades and put my community into Hyperliquid. We could have all retired because we would have been farming the airdrop pretty early, right? Now, what does it mean to farm the airdrop? All you pretty much need to do is invite people to trade with you, trade the airdrop, and actually just keep farming the airdrop. Now, there may be another chance. So remember, there's this whole decentralized perps narrative, and then there is this real world asset narrative, and there may actually be another chance to actually farm this, right? And that other chance is on a platform called Variational or Omni, right? And what it is, it's exactly what it is. It's a perpetuals DEX, which is a decentralized perpetuals DEX, where you can trade a whole lot of things, including real world assets. So you can trade all these tokens, but you can also trade a whole lot of real world assets that are basically coming on. You can trade them with leverage. Now, here's the kicker. The kicker is that what do they do differently? They run a request for quote instead of running an order book. Now, the reason why they don't run an order book is because if you can see the order book, you can spoof the orders and you can liquidate people, etc., etc. They do it slightly differently. Anyway, I don't want to talk too much about the technicality, but I do want to highlight the following. If you trade on this now and you start doing your trade here, not only do you get good execution, but you also start to accrue points for the airdrop, right? Now, I just want to show you, today, the points are worth, I've seen that some points are worth $20 a point or whatever else. Sorry, I see that the researchers are sending me stuff here. So what you can see is that you can, just by trading, you're earning points. And if you're earning these points, then effectively, just by trading, you can earn the points. Now, what are these points actually worth? Depending what you think the FDV will be at launch. But if you think that the FDV at launch will be $500 million, by the way, Hyperliquid is $50 billion. And if you look at the volume that you plan to do, and we've left this calculation for you guys in the link in the description so that you guys can actually do it. But you can earn points, and you can basically get like a whole lot of different payouts depending on what your volume actually is. The more volume you do, the more you actually get paid out. The good thing is that you don't have to do anything except trade. Like, you're going to trade on a decentralized perps DEX, trade here and get points. What I have done for you guys is I've actually left a link in the description. If you want to join us and you want to, is I've actually left. So if you want to, so there's a link in the description if you want to join our variational Omni link. Just go here, connect to the site, use the code OmniRun, because then we both get more points. So just use the points, the code OmniRun. Once you've got your wallet, use the points OmniRun. Or I think Johnny Wims put a link that automatically actually fills that in for them. And then there's the link, there's the calculator here, which actually shows you exactly how many points you can actually get. So I think it's a great opportunity. I think that this is like the hot new DEX for points farming. I'm seeing a lot of hype around it. And I think that there's an opportunity for you guys literally to just trade and get free points and free money. And look, I missed Hyperliquid. I know that a lot of you guys missed Hyperliquid. Maybe we've got a second chance here at the cake. Maybe we've got a second bite at the cookie here. Okay, so that is the alpha for today, the tokens that actually outperform Bitcoin. I want to talk about something else now. I asked you guys yesterday, how many of you guys actually play poker? Do you remember I asked that 2 days ago, yesterday? 2 days ago. And the reason why I asked that is because I came across a platform that's called TradeStars. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. But what this platform actually is a platform. I'm going to show you, this is going to blow your minds. So what is it? It is effectively a poker style trading game. So I don't know if you ever play Poker Stars or whatever else, but essentially it's a table and you can join a table. So I'm going to go to the lobby. I'm going to look for a table. There is a Banter Cup or there's a Banter 1. I then go to Banter 1 and I go to the table and I sit at the table. And this is a competition. It's a trading competition. This competition is a 7-hour trading competition between me and one other person. And we can sit and trade with each other. And the winner gets the prize pool of $1,000. So basically, the reason why I love this so much is because if we are arguing about as to who's a better trader, why don't we all get around and you can have 1,000 people there and you can play on a table. In this case, it's only Bitcoin, but you can set the chart to be whatever you want. And you can trade against your friends and you can start a table, trade against your friends and your friends' friends, and the winner gets the pot. So you're trading with demo money, you're not trading with real money. And the winner actually gets a real prize money, which is the pot. I think this is absolutely amazing. It's like basically just like you're not paying to play now. I mean, at some point you will pay to play. See, now Manny is now trading against me. You see, he's taking a trade. Let me actually quickly take a trade here and see if I want to go long or short. What is the market actually doing? 77,160. I think the next move is short. So I will go to here and I'll just short Bitcoin. Let's just say that for. So now you can see we're both short. I'm going to go back to the table and you can see who's the leader, etc., etc. You can see, okay, right now I'm slightly beating him. He'll beat me, etc., etc. So why am I telling you this? Because we actually want to have a game with you guys, right? The game starts at 11:30 EST. If you want to register for the game, it's absolutely free. There's no money involved here. You're not trading with you're not plugging in your account. You're not trading. You're just going to go and mess around at the table. There is a game. So you go to TradeStars, which there's a link here. You go to TradeStars. You join using this link. And then once you've joined using this link, go to the table. So you go to the lobby. And you go to this table over here, which is called, it's called the Banter Cup. Go to the Banter Cup, join the Banter Cup. You can see there's only 500 spaces and 164 people have already joined. So get there quickly. Again, there's no money involved. You're not paying anything. You don't need to put your credit card in. It's just a fun game. The only thing is that the winner is actually going to win this. The prize pool is $2,000 for the winner, 500 for second place. The trading competition starts in 1 hour and 26 minutes, and it is a 2-hour trading competition. So we're going to sit and we're going to trade for 2 hours, and you guys can join, and up to 500 people can actually join. So go and sign up. It's free. We're not asking you for money. Go and play. I'm going to be there in 2 hours. I'm going to be trading in 2 hours. Sorry, in an hour and a half when it starts, and then the competition is going to go on for 2 hours, and we're going to play with each other for 2 hours and just have fun and just actually test this new platform out. Hardest, are you going to play? No cost, bro. No cost.
I might, but that's tonight.
He's got something tonight. What's her name?
No.
No, we're not doing that, eh? All right, chaps. I know we spoke about altcoins today, and I know we all feel dirty and we need to go and have a shower, but you know what? It is what it is. I'm tired of talking about the war. I'm tired of talking about the Bitcoin bear market. I thought of just looking at the coins that actually did something. I'll see you guys again in an hour and a half. In an hour and a half, we're meeting on TradeStars and we're going to play this competition. Until then, come and trade with us, my friends.